When a woman conceives, one of the things that they expect right from the time of conception is that this baby will grow right from day one up to the 9th month. When a mother does not see any sort or any signs of growth and development, they begin to get worried. And so they will do whatever it takes to make sure that they identify what could be the root causes as to why there is not any growth and development in the life of the baby who is still in the womb of the mother. This same principle also appears when it comes to our growth, especially in the context of my perspective. Welcome to today's episode. My name is Fred Makubuya. First and foremost, I would like to thank you, everybody who has made this channel your channel, a channel that helps us to inform ourselves, to educate ourselves, to remind ourselves about the core issues that affect our growth and development on a day-to-day basis. My name is Fred Makubuya, and today's episodes will be in series, and our center of focus will be on the aspects of how you and I can be able to notice growth and development in perspective. In other words, how do I tell that there is a growth in terms of how I look at things? Remember, perspective is about how you look at things, how you see things, how you view things. So fundamentally, it is important for us to have a checklist on the things that we will look up to and say, I am able to grow in terms of perspective, or I am not in position to grow when it comes to matters of perspectives. So first and foremost, I would like to find out and bring this to your table. How do you tell that you have grown when it comes to matters of how you look at things? And that is your perspective. I would like to highlight a few things in this first episode on some of the things that you should be able to notice, to tick, and realize or understand that I have been able to grow when it comes to matters of perspective. The first and foremost, I have always talked about the 5 fundamental questions of life. If you are able to develop answers to the first core questions of life, then this can be one of the criteria upon which you can base on to identify yourself as part of the people that have been able to grow in terms of perspective. So the 5 fundamental questions of life, which I have always talked about in many of the series under my perspective. Question number 1 is, who am I? If you are able to sit down and develop answers about who you are, that can be one of the indicators that you can base on to know and understand and say, I think I have been able to grow in the areas of how I look at things. Question number 2 is, why am I on earth? Many people struggle in life to find answers to the question of why do I exist. In fact, Dr. Miles Monroe is very clear on this. He says that your inability to identify the reason why you exist is one of the greatest tragedies on earth. So the question, the ability for you to sit down and analyze why you exist as the second fundamental question, can be one of the things you can base on to say, I think I have been able to grow as an individual. The third fundamental question is, where am I now? The question of where am I now can be a question of position. It can be a question in terms of qualification. It can be a question in terms of skills development. It can be a question in terms of where am I placed. And so many times this is one of the questions that keeps disturbing our minds. And remember, these fundamental questions are the helping factors to individual growth and development. So if you are in position to identify answers to the reason of where you are, in my opinion, that can be one of the things you can base on to say, I think I have been able to grow, especially in terms of perspective. What can I do? Very fundamental question, very important question. What I can do, what can't I do? That can be one of the other fundamental questions of life that can help you to really think or believe that you have been able to grow in perspective. Remember, perspective is about how you look at life. And remember, how we look at life determines a number of things. It determines where you are now, but it also determines where you ought to be. It determines what you are going to do and what you are about to do. So the fundamental questions of life, once you are able to sit down and do what we call a self-analysis, and you are able to develop critical answers to the 5 fundamental questions of life. The questions of who am I? The question of what am I? The question is why am I existing? The question is of where am I now? And the questions of where am I going? Once you have the answers to these questions, you are in position to say, yes, I have been able to grow when it comes to matters of perspective. So many people in this country and outside this country, Uganda, have battled with all these 5 fundamental questions. So many people have grown up in age, but they are unable to find answers to these fundamental questions. So many people are successful, maybe in the other aspects of life, but they are still battling with finding answers to the 5 fundamental questions of life. You may be a business person. You may be an accountant. You may be a clinical psychologist, like the way I am. You may be a spiritual leader. You may be a leader positioned somewhere to drive people. But if you don't have the answers to the 5 fundamental core questions of life, then it can be an indicator that you have not grown when it comes to matters of perspective. So the question of you sitting down and analyzing, but who am I? Where am I? Where am I going? What do I want? What can I do? What can't I do? Can be one of the questions, can be one of the spiro factors, can be the foundations upon which you can be able to grow in perspective. And the reason why I am able to bring this on table, because you can never go beyond your perspective. You can never go beyond how you look at life. In fact, most of the things that we do are determined by perspective. Most of the decisions that we make in life, be it at family level, be it at religious level, be it at educational level, you want to further your career, all these are built and established on the foundation called my perspective. And so one of the things that will show you that you have grown in the areas of my perspective, how you look at things, can be the ability for you to sit down and develop what we call fundamental questions, but at the same time, developing fundamental answers to the 5 core questions of life. I would like to appeal to you. You might be a mother, you might be a father. You might be a leader, you might be any profession. You might be a leader qualified in a particular organization. The 5 fundamental questions of life are very key and very significant. Can I appeal to you that as you run and chase over many other aspects of life, many activities, can I be in position to sit down and evaluate myself and say, okay, amongst the 5 fundamental questions, which one do I have answers to? Which ones do I not have answers to? But the moment, at whichever age bracket, whichever status that you are in, as long as you are in position to ask yourself the 5 fundamental questions of life, and you are able to have the answers to these, then that can be an indicator that you have grown in the aspect of what we call perspective towards life. Remember, how we look at things determines a number of aspects in our life. I would like to appeal to you to subscribe to this channel. Please share and make a comment so that together we can cause a change in all the 5 core domains of life that I keep alluding to. This is my perspective. Endeavor to follow the next episode on how you can be able to identify yourself among the people that have grown in terms of perspective. This is my perspective.